Hey y'all. So let's just get into a little bit of what I want to work on next. I want to try to get some work done tonight. It's officially 9:45 right now. I'm gonna try to work until like maybe like 1 a.m. and I think that will be, like a good amount done. But yeah, let me kind of get started. So this here is my Trello board, and I'm using it to kind of keep track of some things of like features I need to add next, things I need to add and all that kind of stuff. Essentially, I'll kind of do like a little architecture sneak peek into kind of like what I'm working with at this moment. But essentially, the main thing I kind of want to start working on is this right here. So I don't really know if you can see it, but essentially, I'm working on my project. My entire game, it's using the Godot engine, and I have a problem currently where my game, like, I guess I'll do a quick run through. It like works fine, kinda like, okay, let's say if I send him here, let's see, maybe send him here instead. Maybe he'll like catch the ball. Okay, he caught the ball and he's gonna run, right? Gets tackled. All that is great, right? But the problem I have is all of my players here on the screen, right? So let me kind of make it like zoomed in. All of my players here, they all have their own physics process call, essentially. And that physics process call is what's going to move them and translate them across the screen here. What I would like to do, the problem is that they really don't communicate. Like, for example, this guy got tackled at that point, right? And that's pretty funny. It looks like the text is also rotated with the with the player here. But one of the problems I have is getting everything to line up so that they get to the same point at the same time is a little bit tricky. Like, I'm kind of doing a lot of things to try to simulate or like emulate the fact that it's like they're all kind of moving at once at the same time, but moving at different speeds through essentially like changing like a speed factor. And so what I want to try to do is, I would like to take away all of the individual physics process, like, calls, and put that into a different class or a different node, I guess, that has its own physics process method that will just call all of their methods at once. And so what I think this will allow me to do is it will allow me to better keep track of, for example, the status of where the players are at while they are moving. So for example, so one problem I'm having, right, is that like essentially okay, this guy might be uncovered, so let's okay, yeah, so no one's on him. Okay, tackle there. But essentially one problem I'm having is it's like when I get to implementing the running back, situation and the running back player, I think if I put all of their movement processes into one single method that will just go through every single one, do its little update, right, and then check its location potentially, I feel like that will be a much better implementation for all of these players. Because the problem right now is it's like, if I want to figure out like, hey, this guy is getting tackled at this point, this guy is not getting tackled at this point, is like getting out of something. It's with all of them being separate process calls, it makes it really difficult to get that kind of analysis. So I think that's going to be the first thing I'm going to try to work on. So these are kind of the big items I have here. That features I'm going to work on. I'll be adding to this. Oh, actually, I have another feature to add here, actually. So, add movement for offensive players during the running of the player with the ball. Okay, so these are kind of like big items that I'm going to get to, and do. And these are essentially player types that I want to do. So this is kind of like a subsection. Essentially, I guess I'll also do the architecture real quick. It's not very complicated, but essentially Hey guys, so I wanted to kind of go on and do like a more in-depth breakdown of my architecture for the entities in the game. So as you can see here, first we have what I'm calling the abstract player. This class is essentially just a abstract class that, if you know what abstract means in most programming sense, means that it's not really meant to be actually implemented or actually used. It is meant to be a class that you build on top of, right? For actual specific, like, real classes that can do things. So, for example, in this example, my abstract player is kind of, going to contain the stats that every single other player is going to have that's on the field. So it's going to have what I call a speed success distance, which is essentially a distance in terms of units on the field that the player is going to successfully get to. So, for example, if a wide receiver is very fast or a wide receiver, can go very far, then you'll have a large speed success distance and say, okay, hey, he can go 10 tiles up the grid, right? Okay, so that's the first part. Secondly is the agility. And, we're still very early in the development process, but essentially these stats, they're going to kind of decide how the plays go, right? And so I'm thinking that agility for me kind of means that, like, if two players are on the same grid as each other, then what is the chance that a play is going to happen? Like if a running back is taking a ball, he's at a tile that has a defender on it. The defender is going to stop him. What is the chance that he'll juke him out his shoes, right? Like break his ankles. That's essentially what that is. And so I'm kind of using, if two players have similar agility stats, it's like, okay, the defender will most likely tackle him, right, in that spot. But let's say that the running back has like, a 10 juke or 10 agility versus 1 agility for the defender. The defender can't move very fast. The running back's going to just blow by him, right? So that's kind of what I'm using there. And that's also similar to strength. Strength, I think, is going to be another, very similar, stat to compare two players on, where, maybe if a running back is very strong, not very agile, but very strong, then a defender that's not very strong, he'll just get pushed by, right? He'll just get, get knocked over. So that's kind of what that's for. And then stamina, I haven't actually implemented any usage of it yet, but my idea with that is, as a player, the more they play, the more that they, do or run, they're probably going to, slowly run out of stamina or slowly get more tired, right? And that's going to be a thing that's going to be different for each player. And, I haven't fully gotten into actually implementing it, but I think it's a good idea to have to make the, the sequence of plays along the game more dynamic. Because I think that if the players have the same exact, stats and expectations for each play or each sequence, it could get kind of like, predictable. Okay. And then let's get into the subclasses. And so these subclasses, as I said before, they're going to have all of the same stats that the abstract player has, except they're going to also have additional ratings that are specific to the kind of, actions that they'll be doing. So first of all, I have the catching player. The catching player is essentially what I'm describing as just a player that can receive the ball and catch it, right? And so that player will have a catch rating. Which, it's going to say, okay, hey, if the ball is thrown to his spot and it gets to him, like, is he, like, how likely he's going to catch it? If he has very low catch rating, okay, he has, bricks for hands, he's not really going to be able to catch much. If he has a very high catch rating, then, it should be automatic, right? Okay. He's still going to have everything the abstract player has, but he's also going to have his catch rating. Next up, we got the defense player. And so this is a defense player, right? Is also actually, let me go back to the catching player and let me also expand upon that. A catching player isn't an actual football position, right? That's also an abstract class. And thus, there really shouldn't be any actual catching players, but there will be classes that, inherit from catching player, such as a wide receiver class, such as, a tight end class, and things of that nature. Okay. So, hopefully, that makes some sense there. And it's going to be the same for defense player. A defense player is going to have an awareness and a pass breakup, and I think hopefully these are self-explanatory. Again, another abstract class. Next, we have the quarterback. The quarterback is going to be a little different because he's actually not a abstract class, at least right now in my implementation. He's actually like a real player, right? Like quarterback, and so it's a very special position because he's the only one that's going to really be throwing the ball, at least in this early, conceptual phase. And because of this, he's going to have his own set of settings that are very specific to him. So for a quarterback, he'll have the arm strength and the accuracy. And those are both going to go into how likely a ball is going to get to its, final position, like how far he can throw it, as well as how likely the ball is going to go to the spot that he wants to throw it to. I have some implementation of this in the game so far, but, not a ton yet. But I think, it's kind of self-explanatory, but, this is an actual class that will be on the field. Next up, what I'm adding is a whole additional other abstract class. I'm adding a blocking player. And a blocking player is something I realize I'm going to need because the function of the blockers on a football field, like, a guard, a center, a tackle, it's very different from the functions of the other offensive players. And the reason is this: they are essentially going to be taking defenders out of the play. They're going to be, if a defender comes up and, is trying to sack the quarterback, they are essentially going to be, holding up or stopping the defender. And so that's why it's a different class, because it will actually have a blocking attribute specific to it. And with the blocking player, I'm going to be creating, the first of my blocking players, which is going to be a center, because I want to get this ball snapping, set up. And so the center is going to be a subclass of the blocking player that, will be defined as the player that will snap the ball. So that's the first couple additional classes I'm going to add. And then the next one is going to be the running back. And if you notice here, the running back is actually going to be a subclass of the catching player, because the running back is a catching player, right? Like in the game, the running back will leak out, be a check down, and it can catch the ball. And so he'll have his own catch rating as well as his own unique rating of carrying. So this is just a breakdown of the things I'm adding, and hopefully this kind of, reveals what the architecture looks like. Pretty much got together this functionality that I wanted to do in the Trello board, which is essentially moving all of the physics process rendering from in the individual classes and into this movement renderer class I have here. And so essentially with this, what I'm doing is I'm essentially just calling a method called process step that is going to be what the what this physics process method originally is doing. So the next step would be to remove this from here and just call this process step. And I think it's a good change because, for example, here we can do things such as check for the ball location, check for the player locations, and do more of that. It's all in one centralized class here, instead of just being willy-nilly all across the place. The next thing what I want to try to do as well is put more logic in here that I right now just have in the individual classes. So things like the speed, things like the the movement of the units, or the players can be from within their own class. But I think things that are outside of the scope of the player should be, more from it should be controlled in this class, I think. So, I think this is a good start, though. I can move a lot of the logic I had inside of the, so I have all these states here, essentially. Let me try to explain it a little better. So what this allows me to do is, instead of having each of the, objects just running, right, and they're all just moving, this allows me to kind of have a centralized location for it, as well as a big improvement, which is allowing for some signals to be sent from it when certain things are finished. So for example, one big thing is that what I had in all, so I'll show you my move all class, my move all state, which was really gross. But essentially, I could pretty much take this whole process method here, remove it, and just have it connect to a all movement finish signal. And so with this, with the movement renderer, I can connect this all movement finish signal. So that's going to say that, okay, this signal represents all the checks I was doing down here that was getting all complicated, essentially. So, with that, I think it's a lot cleaner. It's a lot easier to understand what's happening. You just pretty much say, okay, hey, the thing finished. We just send it to the next state, right? So, let's get rid of this. You don't need a ton of process calls. So yeah, it's really messy in here. I'm gonna go through and do a lot more, cleaning up. But I just kind of wanted to share my process. Essentially what I did was I moved all of the functionality from, let's go for example to basic quarterback entity, from this from this physics process method here, and then we're just gonna remove this physics process method. And it will still work the same way. So it's getting called, in a different class. Okay, so we're going to need that. So let's save that. And then let's go to a catching player. Again, we're going to remove the physics process method. Here's the process step now. I still have process in each of them, which I'm hoping to just use for the playing of animations. That's essentially all it's doing. It's just playing animations from process. So I might leave that like that for now, but again, I could also move that into the movement renderer as well if I want more control from there as well. So and then defense player entity, physics process, let's remove this. Okay, I think that's pretty much it. Controller. So let's just make sure I didn't break it all by removing that. So we're gonna throw it here, send it there. Okay, yeah, blocked. Let's do a short throw here. Okay, caught it, tackled. Okay, so it works pretty much like it's working essentially the same way. It's just that it's happening in a more okay, blocked again. I want to try to see if I can actually. I mean, this will get caught, I think, but it's like so. Oh, okay, that's a pretty good play. Touchdown. Okay. But essentially, it's all going to work the same way. It's just that they're inside of a step class instead of just being, all willy-nilly, and it allows me to work with signals from a unified place. So yeah. Next thing I'm going to do as well. So I don't know if you take a look here at the very top of my class. So far, I have the all movement finished class, and that's actually implemented and connected with the current states I have now. But the next thing that I will do is I want to hook up this touchdown arrive signal to send that signal down for the touchdown. If you also I can make it larger. I should have done that before. But essentially, if you notice here, the touchdown didn't actually arrive until all the defenders here kind of like made it to the end of the field. And so with this, Well, as soon as he crosses this barrier, like as soon as he crosses into the end zone, right, then it'll immediately say, okay, hey, kick off a touchdown arrived, or kick down a touchdown. The defenders don't they can stop running, I can do that all from this movement renderer method. So, yeah, I mean, I think it seems like so far that's one thing knocked off. I think it's going to be a lot easier to, as I add these more complicated actions, keep track of things. And so, yeah. Thanks, guys. Oh, actually, the last thing as well, what I'm going to try to do in here as well is I want to have states and like a switch statement in here. So essentially what I want to have is, for example, things like the next thing I could add, right? It's like maybe the center snapping the ball, right? Or like hiking the ball back. That would be essentially like a state that is going to tell them to move like for a certain action. So for example, that would only be the quarterback and the center potentially. And that's going to be done in here as well. And then when the state is in, for example, throw or in like play, then, it'll run like normal here. So that's just another, benefit of having it all in one place and being able to really check everything at once. So yeah, I mean, hopefully if you guys found this, section of the video informative, then, thanks for watching. I'm going to keep plugging away, but I'm probably going to, end my work for tonight. So yeah. So next thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be going to abstract player. And then I think what we're going to be doing is maybe I guess we're going to be saying a center, right? And then what we're actually going to do as well is we're going to be having a blocking player, I believe. So let's have one that inherits abstract player. Inherit. And this will be called blocking player. And so this is kind of just my process, right? So I have a blocking player. And I believe that he should have, he's already gonna have strength. Maybe he'll have like something called like block technique or something like that, or block, or just blocking, right? And that could be a value. And then let's see, blocking. Oh, sorry, export there. And aside from that, maybe they'll have a, maybe that's all a blocking player has. I have to think of functionality there. But then from the blocking player, I can create, another class that's going to inherit from blocking player. That's going to be, center. Or center player. I mean, quarterback. Yeah, I think it's just going to be called center. So now we actually have a center class, right? That is going to have all the stuff that is inherited, except it's also going to have maybe like, the ability to snap a ball. So that's going to be something that we're going to be adding and implementing. And yeah, I think it's going to be, I have an idea for how I would like it to look and for it to flow, but let's just see if it works out, So I'm back and I pretty much have, got the snapping working okay. So here on this play, as you can tell by his stats not really being added, I haven't really set that up yet. He's actually a center. And you'll see on send him here, send the ball there. The snap will actually, it'll happen before the players start moving, which is a little awkward, but it's something. We got the animation kind of, it's not like a real animation, but And also like the size of the ball, I'd say, is a bit too large. But you know, we got some snap action happening. You know, and the only thing is, it's kind of like I feel like happening before the play starts is kind of odd, right? But I mean, we got the basics down. Let's try this. And I wonder. So hit run. Oh, the other thing too is that the fact that I haven't really updated the quarterback to like stand without a ball yet means that the illusion is not working at all because it's you know, he's already holding a ball and then just like this fling random ball there. And so you know, that's something I can work on, but you know, let's throw the ball there. You know, with as with everything, you know, one thing at a time. And yeah, so yeah, we got the center kind of doing some stuff. You know, so it wasn't actually too much to add, but yeah. Hey y'all, what's good? So it's feeling a little more, you know, motivation. So I'm gonna work a bit more, and after adding the center, now I'm gonna try and do the running back. And so the running back, I think, might be a little complicated, you know, similar where the, you know, the character, you know, he's going to have to run towards the quarterback first and then start running, right? Or then start, you know, going on a certain path. So, yeah, I got to figure out kind of what, you know, what that's going to look like. So, yeah, and I mean, I guess I'll also have like, I gotta think because, well, I guess I'll do that thinking, and you know, on my own, but yeah, okay. So I just want to show you guys what I kind of finished now. We've got this running play set up, and essentially, here we've got the running, like here we've got the center, and this is essentially what I've finished adding. And so now we've got the running back. He can kind of only go, you know, these specific spots, and it looks like he's going to be in this guy area. But you know, just take a look at the progress here. So let's say he runs here. Boom. So it's showing this great catch thing that shows up as in it's kind of like the same as the wide receiver catching a ball. But I have to go through and essentially change the logic for that. But essentially, you know, the running back will run to a spot and then essentially, you know, do the simulations for the later section of the play. So let's see if we do reset, run it again. And also you might notice, but this center player here is also actually blocking. So he has a blocking stat and he's actually going to try to engage certain players and, you know, prevent them from tackling the running back. So yeah, this is what I added. Let's keep running the ball. You know, if it's working, then don't stop. And yeah, it looks like we're getting the same. So if we try running here, right, I believe he'll get tackled right at the spot, which, you know, is to be expected for a lot of running plays if the defender is in position. But yeah, you know, okay. And this one looks like he's gonna go for the touchdown. So, thanks for watching today's episode, guys. I will, you know, keep you guys updated, and yeah, peace.